Let's see. Come on. There we go. Come on. There we go. Pop out the chat so I can see it. Slide you over here. Put that thing down there. Alrighty. I think that we're good. I think that everything's set up. Hope you're having, excuse me, hope you're having a good day, whether it's morning, noon, or night. Let's see here. Finally made it for the first time. Big hello from the UK. Well, glad to have you, Agent Orange. It's barely 2 a.m. where you are. VJ Morph, good to see you. Good morning from Hudson, Illinois. Glossop. Let's see here. Frankfurt, Sheffield. Netherlands, Salt Lake City. Let's see. Seasonally confused upstate of South Carolina. I get that, yeah. Eindhoven. Let's see. Toronto. The Isle of Wight. Idaho. Little Rock. Manchester. Greetings from a dark Gothenburg. Sounds spooky. It's 9 in the morning here, and looks like it's going to be at least partly sunny. Maybe more. We'll see. Let's see here. Nice beard. Well, thank you. Wouldn't be a every other Sunday show without Adam figuring out how to stream all over again. I blame YouTube for that. They like to mess things around. Honestly, it is more difficult to do, especially with using XSplit in comparison to using OBS and Twitch, though sometimes OBS likes to change things a little bit too, which makes me confused. Glasgow, Scotland, excuse me. Normandy, Columbus, Massachusetts, Western New York. Good morning from DC. Cincinnati, sunny Milwaukee. How you doing, Jesse? First time catching you live. Got some rough family troubles going on, so I'm glad I can take my mind off with some Uncle Adam. Thanks for all you do from Athens, Georgia. Well, I'm glad that you've got. Hopefully that this will help to some degree, at least a little bit. Boston, Massachusetts, Germany, Indianapolis. Time to work on some Death Company. Grimsby. Let's see here. Something wrong with audio. Suddenly went very quiet. Anyone else got it going very quiet? Let's see here. Wouldn't be Age of Sigmar or EOS without having a frog in his throat. Yeah, that's just mornings in general. Do you have a P.O. box for fans or something of that nature, Dominic? Yes, I do. Here it is. It's a P.O. box it's a 2080 West 9th Ave, number 331, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, 54904. I check it once every week, couple of weeks sometimes, but yeah. So let's see here. Central Illinois. It's nice that the camera has not been freezing. Yeah, it's funny because so I bought this new doohickey, I don't know, a year and a half ago or whatever from Blackmagic. It's called an ATEM Mini, and that's what the camera's plugged into, and it's not been freezing like the old little Elgato Cam Link. But as it turns out, I ended up using the Elgato Cam Link in the basement for when I'm doing my streaming. It is running the camera that points down at the table, and it is never frozen with that camera. So I assumed that there was something wrong with the Cam Link, but evidently just the Cam Link and this camera didn't like each other, or the Cam Link didn't like this computer, or I don't know what. But I thought the Cam Link was broken or a piece of junk or something like that, but it seems to work fine. So, yeah. It's always the thing with technology, is that it doesn't make any sense. People say the audio is fine, so that might be a problem on client side on one side. Got this in my recommended and decided to watch a YouTube stream for the first time. Well, good to see you, Lord Pickles. It's generally what I do is I do this every 2 weeks on Sundays, strangely enough, hence the name, the Every Other Sunday Show. And I usually just basically kind of chat and answer questions from people in the chat. And at some point, I usually talk about the subject, but it's not necessarily the whole 2 hours. Very frequently, it's 10 to 20 minutes. But yeah, so yeah. Hi from Poland, as every week. Good to see you. Oshkosh, so cute. Sure. I mean, it's the Oshkosh Bagash brand started here, so that was it's an actual place. Lived here not my entire life, since I was 4, so not quite my entire life. Been living here nearly 20 years because I'm 24 years old. Right. Anyway. I was reminiscing with your videos of Golem Arcana. Oh, yeah. And I have an unopened box of the starter kit. Was wondering if I can play it without the Bluetooth pen at all because I don't have the app. I think you might be able to, but I don't know that. I mean, they had the rules were all real world, which is to say it wasn't just weird digital stuff. Everything was actually happening behind the scenes, but you'd have to find maybe a document someplace online that explains what was happening. But yeah. Let's see here. Hello from Portugal, Vancouver. Let's see. Will you get orcs for the next Warband? No. No, I won't. The title card should have been a hint that it's going to be either the Stormcast or the Gloomspite Gitz, because I currently own both those boxes. So I've got to figure that out. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see here. Oh, got a 3D printer coming, a Prusa Mini Plus on Black Friday. Nice. Hello from Canada. Hey, Jan, how you doing? Good afternoon from misty, chilly Ireland. There you go. Well, that's something. Like I said, here it's sunny-ish, but it'll be only a high of 43 Fahrenheit, which is... I don't know what that is in metric. 10? No, lower than that, I bet. 5, maybe. I don't know. The subject really isn't a subject, really. I mean, is there really any choice between Gitz and Sigmarines? I think so, because I really want to paint I got this idea in my head for the Sigmar stuff, as far as what I want them to look like. Yeah. Your recent Twitch streams have got me into the Maggot Kin of Nurgle. I got that battle tome about a month ago and asking for a start collecting boxes for Christmas. Nice. Greeting from Serbia. How about an every single Sunday show? Well, I mean, it's a lot. That's a lot of work, kind of, or at least a lot of time. Right now, it's still every other Sunday, and that seems to work out relatively well so far. Let's see here. Can we go with 25? Then my car insurance rate drops. Oh, that's a good idea. No, that's totally 25 years old is how I hold up. I can't. I rented my first car ever literally last year. The first time I've ever rented a car is when I went to Canada, which I think I did wrong. You're not supposed to rent a car in Buffalo and drive across the border without telling them, but I did, and I didn't get in trouble, so I guess that's good. I don't know. Yeah. Do you think it's possible to adapt Planet 28 rules to fantasy games so that one can use Age of Sigmar miniatures? I mean, anything's possible. He does have also now a fantasy game called Super Tiny Wizards or something. It's got the word tiny in it. I know that. I can't remember what it's called, but he's definitely got if you look at... What the heck is the name of the company? I want to say Monument Miniatures, but that's not right. It's a big giant elephant, and they went extinct because it's not monolith. What the heck are those things called? Mastodons? No. Anyway, it's a yeah. Definitely just look up Planet 28. I'm sure you'll find the website. It starts with an M. Just can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, so definitely. Like I said, he's got a fantasy version out too. Good morning from Central Texas. I liked the Deepkin of Age of Sigmar. I wanted them to be fishmen instead of just wet elves. My Sigmarines ended up being Deathwatch themed. Interesting. Let's see here. Are demons the only kill team faction in Age of Sigmar? Probably. Demons can go both ways. They can be on both sides of the fantasy or the sci-fi. So they're probably the only one I can think of. For 24 years old, time hasn't treated you nicely. No, I get it. Yeah, it's rough. My friend is getting a Prusa i3, which I think I'll be able to mooch off of. Nice. That's why you have friends who get 3D printers, is what it is. Morning from Windsor, Ontario. Going to miss the LVO pub crawl this year. Hopefully next year. Working on terrain rescue this morning. Yeah, that's... I know they were planning on having LVO still in 2021, although I have not heard if they've finally decided to cancel or not. But I know they were planning on doing it. I'm not going to be there, for sure. But yeah. Mammoth. That's the word I was looking for. There you go. Thank you. Mammoth Miniatures is the name of the company. Working on Eldar Wraith Blades. Recently got a bunch of textured rolling pins for my bases from Green Stuff World. They're amazing. Yeah, I own a couple of those. I've never used one. Like, I've messed with one a little bit just for grins, but I don't know that I even ever used that base. I just haven't quite found the right texture yet, or I don't know. I like the concept. I really do. Painting the HMS Victory this morning for Black Seas. Interesting. It's cold and lonely here in Winter Wizard's Frozen Fortress, but we're painting some Space Wolves and are thrilled to be tuning into the show. Well, we're thrilled to have you. I too wanted Fishman. Yeah, I was really hoping on Fishman. There's a game by Warcradle, who are the people who currently do Wild West Exodus, and they're making some sort of Cthulhu-themed game, and allegedly they're going to have Fishman. I had a conversation back in March with, I don't think it was the president of the company, I'm not sure who it was, but it was somebody who worked for the company. I was at a trade show in Reno, and they had a booth, and I was talking to them, and they were talking about Fishman. I don't even remember how I think I was walking by, and I heard the word Fishman, and I was like, what? And, anyway, but I don't think that stuff's been released yet. I keep going back and looking every once in a while. I remember I'll be like, oh yeah, and I'll go look, and it's not released yet, but I do hope that it comes out eventually. I never got how the wet elves fight. Is the turtle flying, or is everyone else underwater when they fight them? See, I've always wondered that myself. Like, is it, like, can they go out of the water? I mean, I've not read the rule, or the, what do you call it, the fluff, the lore. So I'm sure that they have figured that out, but yeah. Let's see here. I have a bunch of old Tau crap from the 7th edition Kill Team box sitting around. Who knows? In the end, it'll be whatever I have that will look stupidest. All right, well, that's fun. Greetings from Norway. First time catching you live. Well, welcome, Asher Bacon. You're my go-to background noise while painting. Working on Sisters of Battle Squad for my Crusade army. What's everyone else working on? Indeed, that's cool. Let's see here. Finally caught one of these live. Nice. Word going around the Kill Team competitive community is that LVO is off, says Ed Hanley. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I know that they had planned on it and stuff like that, and I was kind of like, huh, really? But yeah, I would be surprised because we're just not doing as well as I think originally hoped. But we'll see how it goes. Got everything I needed to start DBA for Black Friday, hoping to become a gaming advocate when things open up a tad more. Nice. It's a good idea. Let's see here. Morning, Adam. 377 viewers. Still some turkey hangovers here in the U.S. Yeah, a little bit. For me, it's been mostly pie hangover, as it turns out. If you say Fishman 3 times in the mirror, Uncle Adam appears. Maybe. I mean, probably not, but... do you have any idea on how you want to paint the Gitz? I think that it would probably be pretty traditional, I guess is this maybe the wrong word, but kind of like you see them on the box, frankly. I don't want to go crazy with them and change them up a little bit, whereas the Stormcast, I would definitely not do the normal gold and blue. I've got a different idea for that, so that's one of the reasons I kind of want to go that route, as it were. Terrain building for Frostgrave, hoping to run it at next year's conventions. Yeah, I've got a bunch of terrain for Frostgrave, and that's some of it's pre-built and pre-painted, like that stuff from Battlefield in a Box, which I think is technically Gale Force 9. And I've also got some other stuff that kind of needs to be painted up a little bit. But mostly I'm using the Battlefield in the Box stuff, which is nice. And now there's a new line of Battlefield in the Box that I just saw recently that's more... Like, they've always had kind of the Gothic buildings and stuff like that, which you could use for either 40K type games or you could use for fantasy. But now they have buildings that almost look a little sci-fi factory, but not covered in skulls like the stuff that GW sells. But they're kind of cool looking. But I guess you could use them for other stuff too, not just 40K. You could use them for other kind of sci-fi stuff, but they're neat. And they're pre-painted in the whole deal, so that's really cool. What's going on, Carlson? That was a sad meow. Speaking of Fishman, have you checked out the BBC Lovecraft podcast? It's really good. They did a case of Charles Dexter Ward, Whisper in Darkness, and Shadow over Innsmouth. No, I haven't. I should look into that. That sounds like something cool. I've been caught up on most of my podcasts recently to the point where I'm like waiting around kind of sometimes, and I'm like, well, I got nothing to listen to. And then usually I switch over to audiobooks, but then recently there's a podcast that I've listened to for years called Last Podcast on the Left, and one of the guys from that show, his name is Marcus Parks, he and his wife have started another podcast on that same network called No Dogs in Space, and it's a music podcast, and their entire first season is all punk, so they're going through and doing these long, deep dives into a bunch of different bands. The first one was 4 episodes about the Stooges, and I'm halfway through the second episode, and then they're going to do the Ramones and the Cramps and a bunch of different bands, so I'm really looking forward to actually catching up on a lot of that. My concern, and it's not a big concern, but at some point, like when their first season is done, they're going to switch to another season, and might be country, might be, I don't know, might be who knows what, and then I'm probably going to be slightly less interested. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's been nice. So I'm looking for other stuff to listen to as well is a good idea. Adepticon is not likely unless things start turning around quickly. Yeah, Adepticon's not going to happen. I mean, if they've not said Adepticon's not going to happen, but normally the hotel rooms go up for Adepticon in July. Never went up. As a person who's taught at Adepticon, usually they reach out to us and say, hey, are you interested in teaching at this year's Adepticon, like in August, maybe even earlier? Usually August. Haven't done any of that yet. Technically, usually the actual event registration happens right around Thanksgiving. Nothing. So, yeah. Like I don't think that they can come out and say it's not happening, and I think it's maybe for insurance reasons, but it's a whole thing. It's about the legality of doing it right now, honestly, in the state of Illinois. Like, groups that large in Illinois are currently, for lack of a better term, illegal. Like, you're not supposed to, like, technically the police could come if you had 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people show up to a single location. So it's a whole thing like that way. But for them to deal with the hotel and insurance, I think they can't like come out early and just go, it's canceled, because then their insurance company will be like, well, you canceled it early, who knows? So it's kind of like they're playing a game of chicken with the state, and I don't know. Again, I'm guessing on all of this. I guess it's very possible that it could happen, but it seems unlikely. But again, like I said, they have not come out and said, yeah, Adepticon's not happening yet. Let's see here. H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society do superb versions of HPL's tales in old-style radio formats. Well, that's cool, too. I'll have to look into that. It's a modernization of the stories told as if they're true crime. Oh, that's kind of cool. Neat. Yeah. Hi, Uncle Adam. I've always been a hobby hero. Never got into playing, but recently met someone who was interested in trying to play and paint. Would Beastgrave or Warcry be a good place to start? Beastgrave is a little bit closer to board gaming, so if they've got a board gaming background, I would say Beastgrave and the rest of the Warhammer Underworld stuff is a little bit maybe up their street. But if they've not done any type of tabletop gaming, then maybe Warcry might be a little bit more interesting. I don't know. The Warhammer Underworld stuff's got like cards, and it's on a hex grid and things like that, and it's on a smaller board, so that's a benefit, and it's also cheaper, frankly. Like, you can get a starter for Beastgrave for, I don't know, $80, $70, something like that, I think. So yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Sorry, it was the Punk Podcast? No Dogs in Space, yep. After 6 months of hard lockdown, I joined a gaming club here in Melbourne and played my first game of 40k. Nice. Thanks for the content. Keep me painting. Absolutely. Absolutely. My first big gig was the Cramps in 86. Totally mad and incredible. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet so, yeah. Especially in 86, yeah. Good morning from Texas, Uncle Adam. Which Stormcast chamber were you considering making a Warcry warband out of? That would be the one that came in the box. Hang on, let me look real quick. I've got... Whoop, that's the wrong button. I've got the screen here. It's the... Oh, gosh. It's the guys who have a lot of... Here. They're the Vanguard chambers? I think it's the Vanguard chambers. It's the ones who shoot a lot. Let me hit this button here. And get out of the way and do this. All right. So the Warcry box, which you can't get anymore, it's out of... No longer available online, according to them. But it's the Stormcast Eternals is what it says, but it's the shooty ones. And it's got some burbs, and that's about it. They also make a card set for the Sacrosanct the Stormcast Eternals, I think, but I don't think that I own that. Anyway. So it comes 3 Vanguard Raptors, 3 Aether Wings, and 5 Vanguard Hunters with the option to build a Hunter Prime. It also includes an ability card that provides reference, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if I can find that card in the pictures here. There. So this is what comes in the box. Well, the cards that come in the box. There's not a Gryph-hound that comes in the box, but I think I've got Gryph-hound models somewhere. But you can tell here, it's all the basically shooty ones and the dudes with the birds. That's what I own, so I would be working on those. Let me try to get my things all back together here and go there. Okay, and there. All right. Today I'll play my first Age of Sigmar game after 8 months of lockdown. I'm really happy. Well, that's good. Absolutely. Do you ever play D&D? I mean, that's technically the very first kind of like not regular Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers type game that I ever played. You know, an actual nerd game as opposed to Sorry or Life or, you know, whatever, Monopoly. 5th grade is when I started playing D&D. And then I didn't play D&D for a very long time and did again back in the early 2000s. Yeah, I'm getting basically a nod from my wife. That's roughly when we got together with some friends and played some D&D. Well, late 2000s, I bet. We didn't go on our first date until 2001. Lord. I know. So anyway, yeah. Probably late 2000s was the last time I played D&D. In between that, I played Rollmaster in college. After college, I played Shadowrun. But I haven't played... And then I played a little bit of D&D, actually, at work. We were playing at lunch sometimes a year or two ago. 2 years ago, probably. Matt from Game 4. He was running a small campaign that we played for a while. And that was fun. But yeah, generally, no, not too much. Good evening from Shanghai. I'm a bit ashamed that I've been learning from you for the last 3 years now, but don't know your real name. Just know you're not actually an uncle. It's true. I just generally go by Adam Smasher here online, or Uncle Adam. That's totally fine. But glad to have you in the hobby, in my opinion. Those Aether Wings are too much fun to paint. Well, I don't want to have too much fun. That sounds dangerous. But I will probably have some fun with them, hopefully. Finally seeing it live. Just getting back into miniatures after a 15-year hiatus. You've made everything way easier for me as a 14-year-old kid. I had no idea what I was doing back then. Thank you. Well, I mean, 15 years ago, there was really, like, there was certainly no YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit harder to get information about what to do. You know, I mean, somewhere still, I still have a book, like a little perfect-bound, thin book made by Games Workshop about how to build terrain. And it just had, like, pictures and sort of step-by-steps and things like that. And it was useful, but it wasn't... I mean, it was finite. The book was only so thick. So if you were like, yeah, but what about like a Viking longhouse? And then they're like, that's not in there, you know, or whatever. So with the internet, you can be like, well, what about a Viking longhouse? And then you'll find probably somebody out there doing it. They have rules for Vanguard, Sacrosanct, and Warrior Chamber. Vanguard can be fun to play, but from what I understand, they're one of the top tier bands in the game and can be OP depending on how you list build. Well, I'm terrible at list building, so I probably won't build them OP. But I'm still going to give them a try, I think, and then I'm going to look into some other options as well. just because I've never done any Stormcast before. You know what I mean? I've never had a Stormcast army or anything else. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that out. Gonna buy my first Warhammer-related thing ever soon. Because I want to play Night Haunts, I ordered the Glaive Wraith Stalkers. Nice. Also, sorry for some misspelling. Dutch autocorrection is whack. Not a problem. Yeah, the Glaive Wraith Stalkers are cool models. I like all the Night Haunt stuff pretty much. I can't think of anything I don't really... Well, some of them are way spindlier than others. But I think all of them are amazing sculpts, really. They're like some of the best aesthetically, in my mind, out there. Let's see here. The goblins are good, but not really OP, but the Warcry box for them is awful because it's just squig hoppers, which isn't a good warband. Well, I'll take your word for it. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it and see what other options there are, too. I know there's a sneaky snuffler card in there, which they call out specifically. And they're like, oh, first time ever, there's a sneaky snuffler in there. And I'm like, is that a drug reference? What is that? I don't even know, man. That's crazy. Set contains, let me push a button again, this one. Let's see, set contains 13 plastic Citadel miniatures, including 10 squig hoppers, also buildable as Boingrot Bounders with options for a squig hopper boss, sure, and 3 sneaky snufflers. Alright, well that's cool. It also includes an ability card that provides reference imagery for your fighters and powers that they can use in the battlefield. What the heck's a sneaky snuffler even look like? Here we go. Alright, so we got a Boingrot boss, a Boingrot bounder, Squig Hopper boss, Squig Hopper, Stabba with Pokin Spear, sure. Squig Herder, Stabba with Barbed Net, Moon Clan boss, Cave Squig, Shuda, and Stabba. Now, it said that there was also a Sneaky Snuffler. I see no Sneaky Snuffler here. I think I've been lied to. Again, I'm going to have to figure it out because I don't understand these little weird goblin dudes. So a little bit of research on my end, obviously, is important. But yeah, so there's a lot of weird little angry faces on these sprues, that's for sure. So that'll be something. I think it's interesting. They're like, yeah, and there's 3 sneaky snufflers, and you're like, but they're not listed here. So I'll have to figure that out. I'm sure somebody in the chat right now is already telling me the answer, which I appreciate, but I'm sometimes bad at that stuff. And by sometimes, I mean most times. Click. All right. And how do I get the chat back? Come on, man. Here. There we go. Getting my daughter the D&D Adventure Begins box for Christmas. Nice. GW Terrain book got me started in my terrain obsession. Then they stopped supporting custom builds to highlight more of their easily assembled terrain. I mean, you can always, use your own terrain, certainly. Last time you read my question, I used a bad word without thinking it, and you almost read it, and it wasn't nice for me to do. It's been eating me up inside for the last 2 weeks. No worries. That's not a problem. Shootas and Stabbas. Nice catching a live show. Did not know a lot about Warcry. Most of my attention being into Blood Bowl. Nice. Check out Osprey's Men of Bronze. As a beginner on the hobby side, I appreciate the Stormcasts being my first army, as they are a little larger than some of their models, which I've found a bit easier to paint. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. And people talk about, like, Stormcast, Primaris on the 40k side, stuff like that. But that is also a draw, is that they are a little bit easier to paint, they're a little bit bigger. So as a lot of beginners specifically start with both of those armies, just because they're also super cool looking, and there's a lot of stuff out there for them, and that's also a thing. Yeah. Currently playing Ghosts of Christmas Past. Oh, painting Ghosts of Christmas Past. Got it. My aunt used to be a sneaky snuffler back in the 80s. Therapy sorted that out pretty well. Yeah, that'll happen. You'll get that. The Warcry Gitz box is a good fun warband. Bounders are both fun and pretty powerful. Nice. Probably so sneaky you can't see it while it snuffles. Well, that's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. It's in there along with the card for the snufflers. The snuffler card is in the box. Snuffler is separate. All right, I'll have to keep an eye out. It's like a squid bloodhound dog that searches for underground mushrooms. Well, that's cute. That's fun. Have you played Catacombs yet? No. I kind of was surprised. I kind of figured they would send me a copy, and they didn't. They've sent me the new codices and stuff like that, like for 40K, they keep sending those, and I'm like, okay, cool, but I don't really play 40K, so I don't know what that's all about. I kind of figured they would send me Catacombs, and they never did. And I haven't, frankly, been to the game store to pick it up. And to be honest, I think maybe it's partially, maybe somebody at Games Workshop actually watches the show from time to time. And because I got to be honest with Catacombs, like, I wasn't particularly interested because there's not really any terrain in there. There's a little bit of terrain, but it's already stuff I've already got from the original starter set. And then there's all those little doors and bridges. And so, I don't know. I don't know that it's going to be something I'm going to end up doing, but we'll see how it goes. You can't find them because they're sneaky. That makes sense. Hey, Uncle Adam. What's up from a freshly new house in Racine? How you doing, Jay? Glad to hear it. New house in Racine. Fancy. Are there bigger greenskins in Warcry? Yeah, you can play a couple different types of orcs, I think. They're like savage orcs and the orcs that have lots of armor. I forget what those guys are called. If you want to play goblins, the Underworld band is a good supplement. See, because we've got that. I've got that too. The what the heck is it named? Bbc Gitz or something like that. I've got that kit as well. So yeah. Card shows the original fighter options for the Gitz. The Sneaky Snuffler was a new fighter added to the box you've got. They didn't update the fighter card to show it. Oh, okay, I see. The new Cyberpunk Red full game book is out. Any interest in Cyberpunk RPG? There's a part of me that kind of just wants to get the PDF version, which I think is like $30 instead of because the $60 version I don't think you can get. I don't know if it's available anywhere yet. I think it's on a boat on the way here, but it may have already gotten here. Last I looked, which was frankly maybe 2 weeks ago. But I'm interested in checking it out. I don't just for I don't know. Frankly, I might wait till the video game comes out, and then that may scratch the itch for me. But I'm interested. I don't know. I don't know that I would see anybody playing it, or I wouldn't probably see myself playing it. But it's hard to say. Let's see here. My son and I are playing Warcry at the moment to keep him away from my Blades of Corn. I'm having to paint a full Slaves to Darkness force. Hard work. Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, though. But that's good. Did anyone manage to get a copy of the Necron Battle Force? Those things seemed to sell out in seconds. Yeah, I mean, I kind of assumed that was going to be the case. I mean, they do generally not last forever on normal years, and this year, they've been having stock issues anyway just because of the pandemic. So the whole concept of doing that this year, I was like, I bet those are going to sell right out, and especially the Necron one, definitely, because people are really, happy with the Necrons right now, which is cool. I don't like Catacombs, but I love the Scions of Flame, and I want to buy them separate. Yeah, they are kind of cool models. I don't know if I want to go that route in my Warcry, but they are not bad. They're cool models, which is amazing, honestly, just because I generally don't like it when, especially GW, but basically any company, molds or models smoke and flame and stuff like that. And also I have a hard time painting it, frankly, but still those models I thought were pretty cool looking. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll sell them separately at some point. They almost always do. Let's see here. That reminds me I need to get the new Marine and Deathwatch Codex so I can figure out how to build my intercessors. Ironjaw Orcs. Yep, that's it. I knew it was something. Ironjaws. I knew it was iron something. I was thinking of Catacombs, but the price was out of range for stuff I'll buy and probably never use, so I discarded the idea. Sure, I can understand that. Love your Jack mug. Oh, mug. Oh, yeah. My mom gave me this a number of years back. I've been drinking out of it a lot lately. I think I had that GW book you spoke of. It does give you good ideas to start with. At the time, I was going to a website called Terragenesis. Oh, yeah, I remember Terragenesis. They had loads of ideas back in the late 90s, pre-YouTube. Yeah, I remember that website. I used to go there, too, yeah. Zarbag's Gitz are a great addition to the Gitz box. Combined, you'll have a good selection of stuff. Nice. Let's see here. Good colors for Slaves of Darkness Undivided. I think I missed the first part of that. Hello, mate. Hope you're good. You know any good single-player fantasy games? Fantasy games that are single-player. I think, didn't they come out in White Dwarf a while ago with some single-player fantasy or single-player games or single-player rules for Age of Sigmar? I swear I saw something in White Dwarf. Maybe this month's White Dwarf? You might even take a look at your local shop if you can get in there or whatever. I thought there was something for Age of Sigmar, but I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head. If anybody in the chat has any ideas for single-player fantasy games, yeah, that might be something to take a look at. Luckily for me, I decided I didn't want the battle boxes before realizing they were sold out. I assume some stores will be getting them, probably no discounts. I mean, it depends on the store, I suppose. Saw minis for a rank and flank game called Conquest in the store. Wicked looking stuff. Never heard of it before. Not cheap, though. Yeah, that is called Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings. And I happen to have, strangely enough, it's been sitting here kind of blocking cats from, well, mainly just one cat from getting up on the table. But yeah, this is, these are Inferno Automata, which is basically, big honking weird robots that seem to be on fire, I guess. And yeah, it's a relatively new company, and it's called Parabellum is the name of the company, and they've been making that game. And it is a rank and flank game, but the models come with round bases, and then you put them into rectangular thingies, and kind of like you do with the Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones style game that Cool Mini or Not did. But I guess I've been told that they're also making a skirmish game, which will just use them with their round bases. So I'm a little bit more interested in the skirmish game because I just don't like rank and flanks personally. But some of the models are kind of cool. Detail's not as sharp as GW stuff. Everything's just a little smoother. But interesting stuff. Also larger scale. It's not like 28 or 32. It's closer to probably 40 millimeter, I bet. Oh, duh, Rangers of Shadowdeep. Yeah, that would be a good single player. It's got good single player rules in it. Rangers of Shadowdeep would be a great answer to that. I knew there was something on the tip of my brain that I couldn't quite think of. Greetings from Scotland. Do you use a paint plan? And if so, what's next? For single player fantasy, Frostgrave is also a solo module. Oh, Frostgrave's got one too. I guess it makes sense. They're written by the same guy. Well, I kind of have a plan, but sometimes I have a tendency to switch it up. Like right now I'm working on my Tyranids on Twitch, which I will be painting them again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night. I paint on Mondays and Fridays, Monday evenings and Friday mornings. And Friday mornings start at 10 a.m. Central, go for 3 hours on both of those shows. So I do those, and right now, like I said, I'm painting Tyranids for Kill Team, and then I'm gonna when those are done, I'm gonna switch to something for Warcry again, and I'm trying to decide whether I go with the Gitz, the little Gloomspite Gitz, kind of spooky little goblin dudes, or if I'm going to do some Stormcast, because I own both of those boxes, and so I'm trying to decide. And I mean, I'll eventually do them both. I'm just trying to figure out what the next one is, and that's the thing. There's also Night Watch and Sellswords and Spell Singers for solo fantasy. I haven't heard about that. I'm not sure there's anything official, but I know there are third-party supplements out there providing combat AI patterns to automate code for solo 5th edition D&D. Oh, interesting. That's kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of the important part for playing solo stuff, is you basically need, like, AI for the opponents, like what they're going to do. Some rules, basically, and sometimes some randomness as well, but yeah. I'm currently finishing up Night Haunt to play Glim's Forge. Nice. $50 a box. Was severely tempted to get the Northerners as Marauders for my Chaos Soup Army. Nice. I got the pre-order of the Elder Scrolls Skyrim game, but it wasn't my liking, really. Rangers of Shadowdeep is much more appealing to me. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the rules for the Elder Scrolls game from Modiphius, and it just didn't strike me. And the models also... And I liked the video game just fine. I played Skyrim, I played Oblivion, I played Morrowind... I might have played a game even before that, too, like a long time ago that I can't quite remember, or else I watched a friend of mine play. like one of the earliest Elder Scrolls games. I remember I had a friend who played it like obsessively, and I watched him play that quite a bit. But I don't know that I ever played it. I might have, but I don't remember. But I know I played Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. So yeah, I was when they said they were gonna make a tabletop game. I'm like, oh, that's cool, but it just for some reason it just hasn't. I don't know what that is. It's just like sometimes there's a spark and sometimes there's not, and there was just no spark on that one for me. But I know Duncan Rhodes, he's been painting a bunch of that stuff and everything, so he seems to be interested in it, so that's cool. Is Warcaster even out yet? I've moved it, and nobody one city over is into War Machine and Hordes. Warcaster seems interesting. I'd play it if I got big out here. I don't know if it's out, honestly. I know they did a Kickstarter, and I think they've done a second Kickstarter. I don't know if it's actually out yet or not. Good morning from Canton, Georgia. Good morning. How you doing, Kelly? What are your thoughts on Underworld? I mean, I like it. I haven't played it. Well, obviously I haven't played much of anything in a while. Although I do have a digital version of Underworlds that I could play. Like, they made a video game version. I think I have it on Steam, but I don't know that I've played that either. Yeah, I don't know. It's cool, and I was enjoying it for a bit, but I kind of like Warcry better because it's a little less board gamey. Like, a lot of Warcry, and if you're into this, that's cool. Sorry, a lot of Underworlds, and if you're into this, that's very cool. It's a lot about card combos and a lot about like using specific cards, and because it's a competitive game, already some of those cards have been banned. So you're like, if you're going to be following along by what the rules say, there are certain cards that are available that they come in these sets that there's like, oh yeah, you can't use that in competitive play. And then if you're playing against someone who likes to play competitively, then they're going to be like, well, we can, it's a whole thing. So I don't care enough about sitting there and building a deck. That's the biggest issue I always had with the game. I liked that it was small and compact and had, your warband was your warband, and that was great. But the fact that the card stuff, like I've never liked card deck building stuff. That's why I liked Keyforge that came out from Fantasy Flight Games a couple years back. Because it was a Magic the Gathering style game, except there was no deck building. You got a deck of 36 cards, and that was your deck. You could not decide to just put in some other singles or anything like that because the backs were all custom printed for that deck. So if you took a single and gave it to somebody else and traded or sold it on eBay, it shouldn't be in that deck because the back doesn't match. So, it's just a personal preference thing. Watching your show with a great old-fashioned, a nice cigar, and issue 2 of Marnius Calgar from Marvel. Yeah, I have those too. Well, I don't have the cigar and the drink, but I do have the 2 issues of the these I got from my local comic shop. This is the issue 1, the fancy, for reasons that I don't understand, black and white cover, but then the regular cover is on the inside, like this. And then the second edition the second issue has come out as well. And actually, they're not bad. The thing that's very interesting is that they're paying very close attention to what this stuff is actually supposed to look like. And what I mean by that is, in the background, you will see basically stuff from the game. You'll see specific vehicles. You'll see specific, like that turret pillbox thing with the missile launchers on top and stuff. They just came out with the Space Marines. Like, there's one of those in the background. And I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I can't remember the name of it to save my life, but that's fine. So they're not just, because in the past there have been 40K comics in the past, a little bit here and there, but they've always just been sort of like the comic people going like, yeah, we're going to do what we want. And this is, I think, got a lot more paying attention to actually what the game is. Plus there's a bunch of ads in the book for the game and things like that. So it's interesting the way they're working it together. But yeah, so far the story's been pretty good. Been liking it. I love Underworlds, but my friends and I don't follow the banned card list. We just use whatever. That's nothing is wrong with that. That's very cool. I think it's a good idea. It's been a couple of months since my country eased lockdown restrictions, and now FLGSs are letting people play again, albeit a few people at a time. FOMO is hitting hard right now. when We have one store in town that's basically just like, well, as long as you're... I don't even think they require masks. Like, everybody there seems to wear a mask, but there's a couple people that don't. And people do go in and play, and that's, I don't know, it's a little odd to me. The other store has like a limit, and the first store that I'm talking about might also have a limit. I just don't know what it is, but I know the second store better, and I know that they have a limit, but they've not. I mean, the second store, I've talked to him, and he's even considered, at least for a while, just getting rid of the play area and expanding the retail area into it for a while. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Blackstone Fortress is a single-player mode. True, not a fantasy game, but yeah, that's also true. Necromunda or Kill Team, which do you prefer? I mean, honestly, right now I've played more Kill Team, but I think that, I don't know, that's a good question. I will be honest, I think I like the Kill Team rules a little bit better, but I like the models and the overall story for Necromunda more. So yeah, that's a tough one. I wish they could use Underworld's warbands in Warcry like they do in Age of Sigmar. I think that they do to some, not exactly, not 100%, but people have been telling me that Hms Gitz, who are a Underworld's warband, can be used in the Gloomspite Gitz for Warcry, so there's got to be some sort of... But I know what you mean, though. It's very smart of them to make it so that those warbands can go just drop directly into Age of Sigmar. That's very cool. I was excited to see the attention to detail as well. Yeah. Necromunda is way deeper than Kill Team, but it depends on whether you want to live out your... it depends on what you want out of your game time. Yeah, that's also true as well. Black and Whites used to be referred to as an ash can cover, and they were usually a collectible lower print run variant. Well, my local shop, I went in there like when the first copy came out, and I was like, hey, can I get that? And they're like, no, it's sold out. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I guess I did not, pre-order or whatever. So I'm like, well, they're like, well, we're going to get more. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I went a bit later on, and this is what I had. So I was like, oh, look, it's black and white. And then I opened it up, and I'm like, oh, look, it's in color. But I mean, the artwork is well done. It's not necessarily... It's well done. It's pretty decent. It's not... I feel like the artist is a little bit taking some reference or some inspiration from an artist named Jeff Darrow, who he worked on The Matrix. He's done a bunch of stuff, but probably his most well-known was a series that he drew with Frank Miller writing that was called Hard Boiled. But Jeff Darrow is very, his drawing is very, I don't want to say clinical, but it is very, very, it's not impressionistic at all. And it's also incredibly, almost psychotically detailed. Like, he'll have these giant 2-page, spreads that will have 300 people on them, like a crowd shot, and he draws every last little person and each person's ear and all this stuff, and it's just like... And you look at it and you go, that's a little bit of a crazy person right there drawing that. And this is like that, but dialed back in some situations. Some of the big battle scenes have got like a lot of detail and a lot of stuff going on, and it's very cool. The old GW game Advanced Hero Quest has solo rules. There's a fan rebuild of it. They're called Advanced Hero Quest Reforged. You can print and play it. Nice. Let's see. Necromunda is a more enjoyable terrible place to be than 40k as a whole for me to play in personally. That's interesting. That's I can see that. Yeah, there's no special rules. You just run them as like whatever sort of model they are, using Underworld's models in Warcry. That's true. Any out of print game you would like to see re-released? I mean, I don't know. There's part of me that's interested in seeing if they ever, and I made a video about it not too long ago, about whether they actually ever pick up Mordheim again or not. That would be interesting. Yeah. Any news about new Kill Team? Nothing that I've seen. Any news on when Underworld's Dire Chasm is out? No, not. I mean, I'm not really a news guy particularly. Like, I don't pay close attention to the news. I read Warhammer Community when I remember to. Frankly, I'm not great at keeping up on that, as it turns out. But yeah, but I haven't heard anything on either of those things yet. Let's see. Sadly, we just surpassed the death toll of the 2005 tsunami in COVID fatalities. Yeah. Battlefleet Gothic for reissue, then Space Hulk. I still see Space Hulk in stores. Not every store I go into, but some stores I still see Space Hulk. So I think it's still available out there. But you're right, it's not available on the website, that's for sure. Battlefleet Gothic, I don't know if they'll ever bring that back. I don't know. That's a good question. Is that the paint your own cover? Are you going to paint it? Still mulling over whether I should not. Maybe watercolors? I don't see myself painting it. I could take a scan of it or something and then digitally repaint it, but I probably wouldn't paint actually on the cover. That seems like a bad idea on my part. Hi, Uncle Adam. How do you know when you're interested in a new game? Is it the minis or the rules which suck you in? That's a good question. It's kind of a combination. Well, it depends. Like most things in life. Sometimes it's a game system that doesn't have models, like Rangers of Shadow Deep, Zona Alpha, Planet 28. In those situations when they're like, look, we made this game and it's miniatures agnostic, then already right there I'm at least a little bit interested, because I'm like, oh, I can use whatever models I like. That's fun. And then you look at the storyline, the fluff, the idea, the concept, whatever it is, and then you go, okay, and that's something that I'm interested in. And then frequently, for me at least after that, then it's looking at the rules, because there have been games out there that I'm like, okay, miniatures agnostic, I'm interested. Whatever type of overall world building that they've done, okay, I'm even more interested. And then you read the rules and you go, okay, I'm no longer interested. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it depends on a lot of different things, but if it's like, the rules are still pretty important for me. Now, if you're talking about a game that's got a dedicated miniature line to it, then if the miniatures are ugly, right off, to me, again, this is, everyone's got different ideas on what's ugly and what's good looking or whatever. But if I look at the miniatures and I'm like, nope, that will end it for me pretty much. Especially if it's a game where it's like, well, this is the line of miniatures that goes with this game. If it's a game that you could replace the miniatures with whatever you want, like if it's a fantasy game, fantasy is very interchangeable in a lot of situations. Not completely, but if it was a game of like, just all fishmen, just fishmen combat, fishmen on fishmen violence, whatever. But all of the fishmen that they made were just terrible looking in my eye. I would be like, well, that's going to be tough because it's hard to find fishmen models, and so I want to play this, but those models are terrible and they make me sad, so I can't. It depends. But if it's a game that doesn't have a dedicated model line, the thing that more often than not will stop me will generally either be the actual rules or sometimes it's the story. There was this is not exactly related because this was also a company that I think sold the models as well, but there was a game, and I can't think of what it's called anymore, but it was like an undersea game where all the fighting was done underwater, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. Okay, but it's not. I mean, if you're fighting underwater, then technically the combat should be three-dimensional. You should have people who can come this way, and Aquaman comes this way, and a giant octopus comes this way, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that's how it should work. Just like air combat generally should be much more three-dimensional than it usually is when you're playing in a tabletop game. But when you're playing on the ground, makes sense. Doesn't make sense to be underwater but playing on the ground. Like, it's just, yeah. At that point, it doesn't, it's kind of like a lot of games will have like weather that happens. Like, oh, well, we're going to roll a random table and now there's a dust storm and everybody's, maximum range for melee or for range weapons is down to, 12 inches. Well, if it's the same for everybody, then does it matter anymore? You know what I mean? Like, when everybody's overpowered, then nobody's overpowered, or when everybody's underpowered, that kind of thing. I don't know. Anyway. Shadespire miniatures in Warcry. Why didn't I think of that? I have a cupboard full of those. must go there now. Come with me to the cupboard of shame. There you go. Uncle Adam, great news. I'm getting my buddy into Kill Team. Hooray. He hasn't even heard of Warhammer 40k until I brought it up. How many people have you personally brought into the hobby? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I get a lot of emails and messages from people who say that they got into the hobby because of watching my videos and stuff like that. And I'm always glad to hear that stuff. That's kind of what I hope for, is for people to get into the hobby and to enjoy the hobby. So that's always nice, but I don't have a number, certainly. Love to see how you've grown over the years. I don't tabletop anymore, but love your content and still watch. Well, thanks. Oh, hey, Jeff Millen, how you doing? Someday COVID is over, we can get together and game sometime. Absolutely, Jeff. Let's see here. Gothic was a good gateway game. The starter had 4 plastic ship models from 2 factions and 8 models. They could be constructed as different classes. I've seen people play it. I've never played it, but I've seen people play it. Where's the last time I saw like a bunch of people playing it? I want to say probably Adepticon, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There was like an entire, not very large, but there was still an entire room of people that were just playing that. And so that was pretty cool. If GW doesn't do Space Fleet Combat again, the Mantic are definitely going to eat that lunch. Well, I know that Mantic is doing Armada, I think it's called, which is like fantasy ship combat. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. The models look cool. I don't know anything about the rule set. I should probably try to sit down and watch a battle report. I don't think that Ash Barker over at Guerrilla Miniature Games has done one yet that I can think of, but I think Blackjack Legacy did, or did they just do one on the Mantic web channel? I'll have to take a look, but I haven't paid super close attention. Personally, I'm not into ship combat too much. I don't know why. I've just never really been into it. So just got home and I'm dying to know what your next Warcry band will be. Well, see, that's the thing, is I don't completely know yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. It's either going to be whatever the Stormcast dudes are that are shooty. I can't think of their name off the top of my head because I can't remember all those words that they keep coming up with all the time. Or it's going to be the Gloomspite Gitz. One of the two. And I'm trying to figure that out myself. If you had to play one, would it be Kill Team or Warcry? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. It might be Kill Team, but it's really close. It's really, really hard. Ash at Guerrilla Miniatures Games is doing some Battletech Alpha Strike games with the new models. Oh, I'll have to check that out. That's very cool. Yeah, I haven't... I would like to see that, because I was, like I said, I don't know, I think I've told this story recently. I was kind of interested in Alpha Strike for a hot minute, and then I was at their booth in 2018 or something like that, at Catalyst's booth at Origins, and they had a bunch of models, but they didn't have the rules. And then last year at Origins, they had the rules, but didn't really have very many models anymore. And I was just like, if you could just get these on the same page, that would be great. Do you dabble with narrative campaigns? If so, do you prep your army warbands, the lower backstory ahead of time? I mean, yes and no. Like, yes, I've played with campaign games. Like, I enjoy. We were a friend of mine and I were doing a Kill Team campaign before the virus hit. He was running Space Marines, and I was running Necrons, and but as far as like building backstory, that I generally don't. Well, I haven't done in that I can think of, but it's not a bad idea. The guy who did Gaslands has a space combat game coming out in February. Interesting. I'll have to. I'll have to look into that. That's interesting. I'm very much looking forward to Stargrave, which is basically sci-fi Frostgrave. So that's supposed to be coming out in April, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping I can convince the people at Osprey to send me an early copy, just because I don't seem to have any patience. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Let's see here. Just cooked a pizza. What's your favorite pizza topping of choice, Uncle Adam? These days, generally I eat sausage and jalapeno. That seems to be my go-to. But otherwise, sausage and mushroom. Battlefleet Gothic is the best minis game GW ever put out. Those are strong words. I have a ridiculous amount of stuff for it. It plays like a World War II naval game, which is really cool. I just don't... I think the problem, and I don't know what it is, but I think it's because it's just basically boats shooting at each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's... I want there to be more terrain, and there's not a lot of terrain in space. I saw something out the window, but it was just a person. But yeah, it's just... I don't know. Again, it's just personal preference. I'm not saying that anyone's right or wrong. It's just I generally don't play too many space combat games. I used to play a space fighter game called... Well, I played X-Wing a bit, but I never got into 2.0. But I did also play a game back in the day called Silent Death, which was made by Iron Crown Enterprises. But I've gotten to the point in my life, especially with space combat games, where I would probably rather play it on a computer because it would be a lot faster. Like some of these combat, games like Silent Death would take a long time, and I would be sitting there playing, especially if you're playing with multiple people. If you're just playing against another person, it's quicker. But if you're playing with like a bunch of people at a convention and it's 20 minutes until it's your turn again or whatever, you're just kind of like sitting there looking at all the numbers and looking at all the stuff, and I'm just thinking like, if I was playing this on a computer, it would be done already, like by, just a lot. That being said, the new Star Wars Squadron game is even on sale right now, and I'm still like, it's... For being how pretty it is and how it's basically a modern successor to X-Wing and X-Wing and TIE Fighter and all those games, I'm astounded at how nobody's playing it. Like, people played it like really for a little bit, and then just recently I looked on Twitch and there were like 28 people watching that game, and it's this huge multi-million-dollar, Electronic Arts Star Wars title that no one is watching on YouTube or on Twitch, and it just isn't getting played that much. And I don't know why. I've heard decent things about it. I think maybe finally people are angry enough at EA to stop buying their Star Wars games. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Anyway, that got off on a weird tangent. Sorry. But yeah, nonetheless, I hope they bring back Battlefleet Gothic because there's a lot of people. It seems like a decent amount of people who are interested. I just don't know. It's one of those games that if they were going to start figuring out a way to work with 3D printing, I feel like that game would be the way to do it. Like, they could put the rules out there and they could put out STLs and then just be like, okay, there you go. Now, there you go. I don't know that they ever will, but I don't know. I have a stupid idea for a tabletop space game using origami models. That's not that stupid. If you can't build it, you can't field it. Maybe I should patent that. It's not a terrible idea. Let's see. I remember Man of War for ship combat. That was a game that could have used some rules shaved off. Yeah, that was kind of the thing back in the day, is that there was a lot of games out there that I'm just like, we could streamline this. This could be streamlined. If I want to play ship combat, I'll play Star Wars Armada. Yeah, that was kind of a cool game. I spent 3 hours in a VR cockpit last night. Weird, because usually I get dizzy and sick within 20 minutes. Yeah, I can't imagine. Just from what I've watched of that Star Wars Squadron game, playing that in VR, I would throw up, I think. Just because there's so much stuff moving around and everything. And the very few times that I've tried VR, it has not gone well for my overall not being nauseated. How about that? I've been noodling an idea for Necron Tyranid hybrids. Cool, I'm on board. Just can't figure out how to blend the flesh and metal in a modeling sense. Anyone have any ideas for a reference that someone has done before? I'm trying to think like a movie or something like that. I mean, if you go look about a month ago, maybe a little bit less, Vince Venturella did a bunch of giants for Age of Sigmar, but he blended them together with a bunch of like bits from 40K. So a lot of them have like metal legs and stuff like that and whatever. Like he took legs from like, I don't know, like Armigers and Imperial Knights and a bunch of stuff, and they're really cool looking. But yeah, that's interesting. Have you checked out Ash Barker's mech combat game Gamma Wolves? I actually watched a bit of a battle report that he did recently from Gamma Wolves because I was vaguely interested. I'm like, oh, well, this might be kind of cool. But then I saw the models and the size, and it's it looks like it would be really hard to get into. This is just first blush if you don't already have, because like it's all based off of base size. It looked like to me, and then you've got some of these surprisingly large. I don't know if you're supposed to use Gunpla or Gundams or whatever you want to call them these days. I don't know where the models would come from. So it's one of those games like there's a part of me that's like really interested in someday making a game where you have to build. I had this idea a while back about a game where you would take like each person would have a single like flying sci-fi hover tank, and you would have to build that hover tank, and then you could play it. And you would have to, scratch build it because there were no kits. I wasn't going to sell any models, so you could do the thing like that people used to do with the underarm deodorant tube, like back in the day when they didn't have land speeders for 40K. They used to show you actually, 40K used to put out like in the magazine. This is how you take like a speed stick and you modify it and turn it into a land speeder, stuff like that. And I thought that was a really cool idea, except that generally people don't want to do a whole bunch of arts and crafts. I mean, as it is, one of the reasons that Warhammer or war gaming in general is not as popular as maybe board gaming and video gaming and stuff like that is because you buy this stuff and you have to put it together and paint it, and then you can play it, right? Or at the very least put it together. If you have to actually scratch build something and then paint it, and then that's even a higher climb, right? So I was interested in that concept, and I watched a bit of the battle report, and I was just like, that seems like it's like where are people going to find those models? Like that was the thing. I think building, like if it was a situation where you could just use Battletech mechs, well, then you could just say this is this and this is that. But these were big, surprisingly large mechs in that. What was the heck was it called again? I can't remember what it was called. Gamma Wolves, right. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, it looked very good, though. I mean, the book looked really cool and everything like that. It was good artwork. I mean, Osprey does good work. And I'm glad for him that he's still working with Osprey. That's very cool. We played the old FASA games, Leviathan, Interceptor, fun once in a while, had no personality or staying power. Ships are boring most of the time, really. Yeah, I can understand that, yeah. It's the second Iron Crown Enterprises reference I heard this morning. Nice to hear. Most folk have never heard of their stuff. Yeah, I used to play, well, like I said, I used to also play, in college we played Rollmaster. So, yeah, it was cool. My problem for Squadrons is I don't have the cash to upgrade the computers. I'm already having trouble keeping up with the mini games I play. Yeah, I can understand that. It does look like it's probably a little... it's got some requirements. As far as the hardware is concerned, that's probably true. Especially if you're going to do the VR thing, certainly. I'm working on Deathwatch fan-made book. I'm curious on your thoughts. Would you or the fans prefer to see more in-depth lore-style book or more action? That's a good question. I don't know. Like you're just talking about just like you're looking at writing fiction, or are you talking about writing rules? Fan-made book. I'll be honest. I find in a lot of the Black Library books right now that I find the action, it's okay, but it's hard to picture sometimes, and only certain writers can pull off action well, in my opinion. So maybe the lore might be a little bit better off in that situation. How hopeful are you for TMX 2021? Well, if we were to do it again in June, like usual, not crazy hopeful. Yeah, I don't know. The numbers aren't great. Like in theory, they keep talking about how we're going to maybe get some vaccines hopefully in the spring. Yeah, maybe. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I know that I follow a group on Facebook, which I only check in on a couple times a week. I mean, Facebook in general. But there's people on Facebook, a group for fans of Gen Con. And every once in a like the last month or so, people pop in and go, "Boy, sure, I'm looking forward to Gen Con 2021." And there's people who are like, "Yeah, probably not going to happen though." I mean, unless something changes real super drastically, real quick, probably still not going to happen. And other people are like, "No, we'll be fine by then." And they're like, I mean, if I had to be perfectly honest, I think that there's a okay possibility that Nova, the Nova Open, the Northern Virginia Open, which usually takes place at the end of August, early part of September, there's a potential that could occur this year, though numbers would be down, probably. I don't think anything before that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see Gen Con. I don't think you're going to see Origins. I don't think you're going to see... Certainly, I don't think you're going to see Adepticon. I think it's not going to work out. So, TMX is in the middle of all that, because it's generally in early June. So I'll try to see if I can figure out maybe something digital. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't think it's going to work out. Most likely. Have you heard of, or do you have any opinions on Oathmark? I own some Oathmark goblins, and I'm interested in owning the Oathmark skeletons, just for other projects and stuff, I think. Although they are a little Egyptian. A little bit more Egyptian than I would like, frankly. At least the ones that I've seen. I'll have to go back and look at the sprues again. But, Like, I'm always looking for good skeletons, and these look like good skeletons, but I could use a little bit less of what they're wearing. As far as the rules, I don't see myself playing it because it's rank and flank, and I'm just not a big fan of moving rectangles of soldiers. It's just a personal preference. I like more skirmish-style games. I'm not into rank and flank. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Maybe look at some of H.R. Geiger's art. Yeah, I was thinking that too. If you're going to be blending like mechanical and organic together, it's a little... The blending in that is not particularly, and this is going to sound stupid, not particularly realistic. It's much more artistic. And it's just like, oh, here's some weird machinery, and now here's something that's not machinery, and it's just sort of like you don't see the blend. It's just sort of the way that it was painted. Whereas the movies have a little bit more realism because they actually have to be kind of filmed in some fashion as opposed to just airbrushed onto a really huge canvas or whatever. But honestly, the xenomorphs from those movies don't have, like, you don't see gears and, 9-volt batteries and crap sticking out of their bodies. So it's not exactly the same thing either. Let's see here. Closest thing I ever played to VR was Battletech at Battletech Center, Navy Pier Mall in Chicago about 30 years ago. Yeah, those pods are still being used. A company bought them, and they take them to like Gen Con and I think Origins at the very least. At least I've seen them at those two conventions. They're aging a bit, but they keep kind of updating the computers in them a little bit and stuff like that and everything. And I think the software's been updated a little bit, but not a ton, frankly. But they are cool though. Let's see. Uncle Adam is no rank and flanker. I'm working on some minis for Oathmark right now, though, says David Moffat. Yeah, no, that's true. I'm just not into that type of style of game. But like I said, the minis do look kind of cool. Let's see here. Iron Crown were notable in that their licenses were used for some of the earliest really good online games. Silent Death Online was huge right up until it shut down and went on to inspire Subspace. Yeah, I remember hearing about that, and I never did get to play it. I don't think I ever had AOL. But yeah, I do remember hearing about it, and I thought it was pretty cool. My friend Peter and I, we worked with Iron Crown Enterprises. We would go and like volunteer basically and run events at Gen Con for them for Silent Death. And also we even one time went to Origins. My very first time ever going to Origins was in '95 in Columbus. And so anyway, yeah, so we worked with those guys quite a bit to the point where they put out a game. They put out a supplement for the game that was all capital ships. So bigger ships, many of them took up 2 hexes instead of just 1 hex. And one of the capital ships in that game is a ship called the Snarling Badger. And that was named after us, my friend Peter and I, because we used to have this little hobby game design company that we did on the side that was called Snarling Badger Games. And so when we worked with them and stuff, they would just refer to us as the Snarling Badgers, so they made a ship called the Snarling Badger. My friend Peter has still got, I don't think I own any of them, but my friend Peter has still got the models, like the pewter ships that they made, too, that were the Snarling Badger class, and it was very cool. But yeah, so they were cool guys. And actually, Peter still runs that game at TMX. He runs There's a great version of Silent Death called Fly Till You Die, and it's just basically a scenario, but it's designed specifically for convention play. So like literally anybody can walk up at any point. You can very quickly explain to them and give them a tier 1 starter ship, and they can fly around, and they have to do a little bit of damage to somebody and get like 4 or 8 points of damage, and then get off the board at this other point, and then they get a tier 2 ship and they can come back in. And so people can leave at any time, people can come in, and it's just a big kind of furball, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's it was a cool game. And I know Iron Crown Enterprises is sort of limping back, like somebody else bought it, or maybe some of the original employees bought it or something, but I don't know what they're doing these days. I haven't paid attention. What's your next warband? It's either going to be space dudes who are not actually space dudes, Sigmar, whatever. Stormcast Eternals, that's what I want to say. It's either going to be them or it's going to be the Gitz, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, thing is the Gitz I'm going to paint predominantly very traditionally. They're going to be green skin, the squigs are going to be red, all that kind of stuff. Whereas I want to do a different paint job with my Stormcast. I don't want to go with the gold and blue. I want to do the metallic to be silver. And then I want where the blue would be, I want that to actually be a black or a very, 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 very dark gray. And then they very frequently have that kind of like leather sort of like... I don't know, for lack of a better term, loincloth. Let me bring this. That's not the right button. Let me bring this up. Boop. And then I would have to actually switch to this so you guys could see it. There we go. Okay. Those are the Gets. Yeah, so they have these... Let me get a decent... I kind of don't want the 360. Thank you. Stop it. Okay, so the idea would be that the shoulder pad bits here would be black, and then maybe these parts would be black as well, although my original idea was to go with more of a dark red. But I was thinking more that it would be more of this black, because I was originally thinking these guys would have shields, because I was just thinking, oh, it's Stormcast, they have shields. I did not realize that these guys, originally when I bought them, I did not realize, I guess, that they were so shooty. But this entire group is shooty and also has burbs. So there's that, which is interesting. But yeah, at least that's kind of the direction I want to go. Then the little weird top knots they got hanging off their heads, maybe those would also be black. If I went with this being the red down on their little loinclothy bits, the leather, there's a word for whatever that is. It's something Roman probably. Yeah, anyway, so those are some thoughts that I've got about doing that. And so that'd be sort of a fun, different color scheme, at least in theory. That's the idea. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on like what I would like to do. Boop and boop and do and there. There we go. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I'm not quite sure with that. The Bicycle Spoke says, I read a UI book called Don't Make Me Think. It was really good. Do you have any go-to UI design book you liked? I mean, Don't Make Me Think is a little bit more, frankly, it's UI, but it's really a little bit more UX to some degree, because it's more about user experience and less about the look. I also own that one. There's also another one called It's Not Rocket Surgery, both of them by Steve Klug. I actually saw him speak in Chicago years ago, and at a seminar that I went to about user experience and stuff like that. And it was very cool. But yeah, it's a little bit older now, but it is probably some of the best known books in that area if you're interested in that kind of stuff. The Design of Everyday Things, too. I don't know that I've read that, but I've seen it. I don't own it, but I know I've seen it around. I have tables worth of Epic and / Battletech terrain and a couple of boards someday. Oathmark skeletons are most assuredly not Egyptian. They're mostly British or Nordic Bronze Age. Well, maybe I was looking at something else. Because I thought when I looked at them that they had those curvy, let's see here, Oathmark skeletons. Poke. Show a full Oathmark skeleton sprues. Well, there's definitely bows. Oh yeah, maybe not. I don't know what I was thinking of. Maybe somebody showed a different... they had like those kind of like swords where you like this. It's not a sword. I don't know if it's a sword or not, but it like comes up and then it's like a reverse sickle, so it kind of comes out round. And I was like, are those the new oath marks? But maybe that was something else. No, these are nice looking. Let me bring them up so you can see them. How about that? Why not? There we go. Yeah, those are some good-looking skeletons. I could definitely see using those. Yeah, I think I remember because I remember seeing the circle armor on the chest, and I remember seeing that. But I also remember seeing some weird swords, and maybe those are just something else I was catching from a different kit, or maybe somebody had been kit bashing them. But like bows, got some swords and some axes and some spears and a bunch of shields. Looks like you even got a banner back there. Yeah, I'm all about those guys. I need them. Looking at the sprues. Yeah, I don't see that. I was looking at something else then. All right, there you go. I stand corrected, and I'm glad to be there. Yeah, no, I'm super interested in those because they would just be great for kit bashing a lot of different things, frankly. So, absolutely. All right, I need you to go there, and I need you to go there. All right. What's your next Warcry warband? Stormcast? I still don't quite know, frankly. It's either going to be Stormcast or it's going to be Gloomspite Gitz, and I haven't completely decided yet. I got way behind. All right. Many of the professionals here say that a nationwide vaccination outside of risk groups and such might be late summer or fall, so I'll find out, I guess. Yeah. Is Warband a blanket term for Skirmish Squad, or is it specifically for Warcry? That's a good question. It kind of depends. If a game is a little bit more fantasy-based, I think, then Warband is usually the overall kind of size-based term, right? So if you're playing a skirmish game that is fantasy, it is usually a Warband, as opposed to an army or whatever. For fantasy games, I mean, like Kill Team, they're actually referred to as kill teams. This is my kill team of these guys. But yeah, I can't think of other terms for skirmish games. But you don't usually see warband used in sci-fi. You don't usually see warband used in sci-fi games as a term. Kill team's not bad. Squad, I suppose it was that. Squad goals, whatever. Hashtag. But yeah, it's. I'm trying to think what they call them. Like in Frostgrave, I think they're called a warband, but they also might be called. Something treasure related too, because they're a treasure band. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, there's other words you could use in those situations. Tribe. Tribe's usually even bigger than too. But just like looking for words that reference smaller groups as opposed to army or battalion or platoon. Even a platoon, like platoon level for like a game like. Not Conflict 47, Bolt Action. That one is still, you're generally using, like, that's what your normal army size, I think, is. If I could be mistaken, certainly. I don't think any kind of a con is going to happen until 2022 at the soonest, guys, actually, because of the vaccine. That's very true. I think so, too. Geiger got around the hardest part of blending organic with mechanical forms by doing his artwork in monochrome. And that's also true. That's a very good point. Well, because, again, it was a lot more about... As I watched this documentary about him, too, which was very interesting. Because I guess I never realized, how big some of the pieces were that he worked on. Most of them were taller than he was. Like, there's so many shots of him just holding an airbrush in, like, two hands and painting on what looked like a wall, but it was just a giant piece of, I don't know, MDF or maybe canvas, but I don't think so. I think it was usually giant pieces of wood or something like that. And yeah, most of the paintings that he did were massive. And it was just mostly all airbrush, and him, it's just sitting there, just two hands, just like working, like, he's like this close to the board, and this board is massive. So that, and you can kind of hide things and fudge things a lot, especially if you're doing monochrome, which you don't know where like this stops and that starts. But again, it wasn't meant for that particularly. It was supposed to be more, I think, the idea of blending mechanical and biological to some degree. Is Warband a blanket term for Skirmish Squad, or is it specifically... I think I answered that. Sorry. Let's see here. Might watch the Aliens movie and take inspiration from the scenes you with the android getting damaged. Yeah, those androids are always like weird and milky. You know what I mean? But they're cool, though. Yeah, filled with white goo. Let's see here. For biomechanical, another option, maybe Louis Rio. I don't know that name. Just got Jacob Bugmanson in the mail. Inspired me to start a warband. Short story in White Dwarf 458 is freaking hilarious. I can't wait to play. I don't have that one yet, I don't think. Calvin says, hey there, appreciate you doing this. Well, I appreciate you for being here. Question, what do you think about Kingdom Death Monster? I'm torn between Necromunda Kill Team, Warcry, Kingdom Death. Kingdom Death is kind of its own thing. It's not... It's a game that is very in-depth, can take a very, very long time from what I've been told, because you basically always play it for the most part as some sort of campaign and everything. But like the amount of different pieces and models and things, like it's its own complete ecosystem to some degree. So if you like the models and you like the concept behind the game, then that would be a way to look at or get into, certainly. But it is certainly not anything like the other games that you listed, Necromunda, Kill Team, Warcry. They're very different in comparison, so there's that. I almost pulled the trigger on Kingdom Death a while back. I thought about it, and I do like a lot of the models, but it's just... I don't know. I don't know if it's for me, and I think it's really more the gameplay, frankly. I think it's a situation of, like, you kind of need not a bigger group. You need, like, a group of generally, like, 3 to 4 people who can play kind of regularly if you want to get through and progress through the story and stuff like that. I got some friends that just live down the street, actually, who play from time to time, or did back before the pandemic and all that. But, yeah, it's a definitely different animal than the others. I've also been told that the models are kind of hard to build in some situations. Like, there's not really instructions, so you kind of have to figure it out. And some of the models are like, obviously, like, well, these are arms. They go on where the arm holes are. That makes sense. But other times, I've been told you look at them and go, I don't know what the heck this part's supposed to do. So that's also something to think about. It's not necessarily maybe as easy to build as some of the GW stuff sometimes can be. So keep that into consideration as well. Space Guest Storm Dudes. That's pretty close. Hey, Uncle Admin, your opinion, are any of the combat patrol boxes from GW a good way to start Kill Team and have an upgradable force for 40k? Are aggressors even legal in Kill Team? I don't think so. I don't think aggressors are. No. Those are the big kind of chonky guys, right? With the missiles on their shoulders and stuff like that? Yeah, they're not available, I don't think. I could be wrong. Maybe they're in elites. I've never owned any of those models, so I don't know. Have I owned those models? Did they come? No, they didn't come with the original Dark Imperium, did they? I don't think so. So I don't think I own any of those. Anyway. Honestly, the new Combat Patrol boxes, I haven't looked super closely at them. I know that they've shown off... There's a Space Marine one, there's a Necron one, and I think there's now also Space Wolves and Death Watch. Those are the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head. The other thing, too, is the Space Marines one comes with the Close Combat Primaris guys, and they still haven't put out rules for them yet for Kill Team that I've seen, which is a bummer. Honestly, it's about time. I'm a little surprised that they haven't dropped the new Kill Team Annual. Like, it seems like that should be coming, because it's usually, like, last year's was, like, towards the end of the year. We're getting towards the end of the year, so I would think the Kill Team Annual would come out soon. But I have not seen anything about that yet, so I don't know. It's interesting. My vote is the Stormcast, because you get the option to paint the birds and the Gryph-hounds. Yeah, that's true. Stormcast Marine Eternals, I kind of want to do a band based around the dude in the Morthai book. Interesting. What other Warcry bands do you currently own? Let's see here. I've got Painted, Skaven, Nurgle, Maggotkin, whatever, like the Mortals, which basically the Putrid Blight Kings and the Big Bug guy. Those guys are done. And then I've got Night Haunts, which I have to finish up their bases, but otherwise they're basically done. And then that's the only ones that I have done. I have the Corvus Cabal half built, but I goofed up some of the bases because I did not realize that there were both 27 or 25 millimeter and 28 millimeter bases in there. Would be great if GW would put the size of the base on the text that's the weird random text they put on the bottom of the bases. That would be spectacular, but they don't want to, I guess. I don't know why. Anyway, what else have I got? I think I've got at least another... Iron Golems. I want to do them too. Yeah, definitely for sure. Leather bits are tassets, I think. The leathery floppy bits are also called paturges. I see. See, there you go. Oh, it's probably not pronounced perturges. It's probably called turges, just like, pterodactyls. I love my Vanguard Raptors with those long strike crossbows. Great for nailing characters. Nice. Have you heard about Fantasy Flight losing the IP for Star Wars Legion? They didn't lose it because technically they didn't have it. Technically, from what I understand, Asmodee owns Fantasy Flight. And I think maybe also owns Atomic Mass Games, or at least is a publisher-developer relationship, something like that. So they just shifted it. It's not like they lost it. It's not like Disney was like, hey, we're taking that back. It's just that Asmodee was like, look, we're going to move this over to the dudes who did the Marvel stuff, which is also Disney, which kind of makes sense. And so there you go. I've heard it's a big hubbub online, and I've seen some frantic comments about it on a couple different Star Wars Legion pages and stuff like that on Facebook and whatever. And the thing is a lot of people, especially in this industry, but just in the world, get very stressed out and concerned about stuff that they have literally nothing to do with. They have no control over it. I try, and this is maybe just getting older, I try real hard to not get stressed out about stuff that I can't do anything about. You know what I mean? So it's not easy, and it doesn't always work. But if you just start to look at things and go, I have no control over what this big weird French company, Asmodee, does with a couple of their properties they own, where they transfer them to here to there, losing my mind about it and freaking out about it doesn't do me or anybody else any good. So, maybe they'll change things. I mean, they've already said, I guess there was a quote that said, well, it's kind of our job to change things. Maybe they'll do X-Wing 2.0, and they'll decide to make Star Wars Legion 2.0 and completely change everything. That would be stupid. Doesn't mean they won't do it. They might. It's possible. But they probably won't. I think that they may have learned some things from Star Wars Legion or Star Wars X-Wing when they changed it over to 2.0, and it reduced the amount of people who were interested in playing the game. I, for one, stopped playing Star Wars X-Wing when they decided, well, that's not true. I stopped buying it. I still played it a little bit with a friend of mine who we both just kept playing 1.0, which, again, great reason for tabletop games because you can play what the heck you want. But I don't know. From what I understand, like I said, they just basically moved it over to have those other folks. I think it's just a reorg. It's just a business reorganization. They were like, let's just make Fantasy Flight just do board games. Can you guys just do board games? Great. And then we're going to take these miniature games and move them over to these guys who do miniatures and who are working with Disney anyways because they're doing Marvel stuff. And so, boom, there you go. It seems like it's not the end of the world. But, yeah, it is one of those situations. Will it affect the miniatures line? Sure. I don't know what effect it'll have, but it will probably affect it in some way. I'm hoping that they decide to make it better, but I don't know. Is Kill Team good for solo play? Not that I know of. I have not seen any solo rules for Kill Team, which is a bummer. I wish there were. I have 21 warbands and 12 kill teams. I may have a problem. Or you have a solution. I don't know, man. That seems pretty decent. What do you think about the BattleTech Clan Invasions Kickstarter so far? Don't know anything about it. I don't pay a ton of attention to Kickstarters in general, and I don't know what the deal is with that. Was sorely tempted by the new Aeronautica Imperialis models too. Too much cool stuff. Anyone get the game and played it? They sent me a copy of it, and I think I might have watched a battle report once, and it's just, again, it's like a ship combat game, and it's just sort of not up my street or whatever. Let's see here. Weirdly, none of the iron golems wear boots. You'd think for all that metalworking and smelting and stuff, they might have developed some footwear. Well, but maybe they like to move quietly while clanking along in their big metal armor. Yeah, I don't know. That's true. Now that you mention it, yeah, they don't. They're all basically barefoot, but they're all covered in armor. So you can just stab them in the feet. Boom, there you go. It's Achilles' foot is what that is right there. Asmodee owns a lot, and they have been consolidating a lot lately. FFG gets hit a lot because they have a wide variety of diversity with everything from RPGs to miniatures. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's one of those situations where they're just like, we need to narrow down what you guys are focusing on, so let's make some of this go to some other people. I mean, because like literally, if Atomic Mass is just sitting there only doing Marvel, but if you can be doing Marvel and also some other things, maybe add some people. Like if they've got, I don't know, I have no idea how many people work at Atomic Mass Games. Just for math, let's just say 10 people work there. If you gave those 10 people now also 3 new games to work on and did not add any more to 10, that would suck. So hopefully they're saying, look, here's, more games, X-Wing, Armada, Legion, and also throwing more people on board. Well, great, that would be good. So I don't know, but I don't know. I know that one of the original designers, Alex Daly, Alex something, and I've never met him. I don't know much about him. I think I've watched a stream once where he was on it. I guess he was just sort of ceremoniously like, hey, guess what? You don't work here anymore, which sucks. That's a dick move, but it's, Asmodee's a huge corporation, and dick moves is pretty much what huge corporations do. Morning, noon, and night. That's the way it works. So there you go. It's said in other places, try to find the serenity to accept things you cannot change. Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. How much would you be willing to pay for 20 well-painted clan rats? What's your ceiling? I mean, it kind of it honestly depends on what you as the artist want to sell them for. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to figure that down, but you have to look at the math, think about how long it took you to paint them. Do you want to get paid $2 an hour? Okay, well then there you go. But if it took you 10 hours to paint them and you want to get paid $20 an hour, that's like $7,000. No, that's not true. But it's just kind of do that math and look at it hourly and figure it out. Now, when you first start, obviously your hourly probably should be a little bit lower, but you're trying to get your foothold and do all that kind of stuff. You can't just be immediately like, well, I get paid at my regular job $15, $20 an hour, or who knows what you get paid. I don't know. So I should be getting that for this. Well, maybe not necessarily, especially if you're kind of starting out. Let's see here. Hey, Matt Sears, how you doing? I think it's still incomprehensible that a group of whatever wouldn't wear boots in conditions that would injure their feet. Well, the Native Americans they had moccasins, I guess, too. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it seems weird to you're right. If you're going to put on that much armor, not having any boots of any kind does seem a little weird. Maybe they've got some sort of it's like a cultural thing where they feel that they're in tune with the ground more with their feet, or maybe they just trip a lot when they're wearing shoes, so they got to go barefoot. I don't know. That happens too. You could then step on their toes. Very good point. That's a way to beat them. I read that some of the FFG people went over to AMG. I mean, that's kind of the way that these things sort of work, although AMG, FFG is based out of Minneapolis-ish, and I think FFG's on the West Coast, so some of them just might not have wanted to move. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm still worried about the changes at FFG. I plan to buy up the expansions for the FFG games I am missing soon to be on the safe side. And there's a benefit to doing that too. Like if you're like, hey, I hope they don't mess up Legion too much. I like it the way it is. And if you've got some and then they change things, you can just keep playing it the old way. Admittedly, if you're into competitive play, you probably have to play it the new way because that's the way that most of these things work. Usually the competitive scene sticks with the newest stuff. And they sometimes tweak things here and there, you know. Even now, still, if you're playing competitive kill team, you probably are not playing with the scout rules, the scout phase, because even GW is just like, yeah, that scout phase, it's not, don't bother. You know what I mean? Like, when they came out with the rule set that they were going to use at, I think they were going to use it at LVO, and they were going to use it at this year's Adepticon, if it would have happened. Like, in there, it was just like, yeah, skip the scout phase, which I've been doing for a long time, because it's kind of stupid, but there it is. So, yeah, that's the situation. Can you build a Stormcast Warband from just one box? There's no special Stormcast Warcry box yet, correct? No, there is a special one. It's just no longer available. You probably need to add to it, like, because they don't have any of the Gryph-hounds in there. But I think I said earlier, I think I own a box of Gryph-hounds somewhere in the basement. So there's that. Wasn't barefoot combat while caltrops were invented? Well, either that or pretty thin boots, I suppose. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe they have hobbit feet. Ooh, there you go. That's a good point. In your videos, when cars, bikes drive past, you put up some letters. I have yet to figure out what it means, if anything. Oh, it just, I usually put up, there's a meme out there that's, let me see if I can find it real quick. It's just called Why Though? And it's like saying, why though? Why are you doing that though? And it's just my general annoyance with people who drive vehicles that are incredibly loud. And I don't think that they should, frankly. Let's see if I can actually get this to... Well, it's like this. Wait, hang on. Let me try to... And I don't know why it makes me laugh. It's also a very strange painting for some reason, but... Boosh, there we go. Yeah, it's just, this is the original Why Though. It's just this weird, probably Middle Ages painting of I think a baby? I don't know, might be the Pope, hard to say. And it's just kind of looking at you like, but why? Like, why did you do that? Why though? You know, and so that's where that comes from. So when I hear that noise lately, and it didn't happen, luckily. Well, the last video that I did, I filmed on Thanksgiving afternoon, and it was cold. So I'm hoping the people with the motorcycles have put them away. So anyway, that's where that's from. That's where that comes from. It's just, I just really, really don't understand the concept of driving around just being like, hey everybody, look at me, look how noisy I am. I can't get my windows all figured out this morning, whatever it is. There we go. Not a huge fan of the scout phase and kill team. Yeah, nobody is. It's just not great. I'd love to get your opinion on game length enjoyment and which game format would be you suggest for younger audience, kill team versus Warcry. I think Warcry might work a little bit better for younger people, maybe, because it's just a little bit less, like there's less kind of fiddling with weapon types. It's more like you got this guy or you got this guy, and they either have maybe this or this, but it's not a little bit less of like, well, this guy's got a, like a plasma gun, and this guy's gonna melt. Like, there's a lot more weapon possibilities in Kill Team than there are in Warcry. So it's maybe just a little bit easier to track that stuff and kind of keep that, though. I've known several people who worked at FFG over the years, and none of them had a ceremony or something when they were terminated. It's a large company like any other. Yeah, that's true. Apparently I was mistaken about the contents of the box. My next door neighbors have loud trucks. Why, I don't know, but they do. Yeah, our neighbor across the street, towards the end of fall, all of a sudden started working on I don't know, some sort of Corvette, like older Corvette. Not really, really old, but like maybe 10 years old, which evidently he thinks should be... It sounds to me like there's something wrong with it, and I think that's what he wants it to sound like, and I just hate it so much. When you notice pretty much all the Warcry warbands aren't wearing footwear, just weird. Soldiers can be thought of as a set of feet, a stomach, and yeah, no, that's well, I don't know. The bird guys, I can't remember if the bird guys have. Most of the bird guys don't have shoes either, but some of them are on stilts, which are like shoes but tall. I guess there's that. What is the scout phase for those of us who haven't played? So it's this phase before the game starts where you have like 6 choices for like I think attack scouting and defense scouting, or is it? I don't even remember. I've done it so infrequently. And so basically, like you can do things like you have to write it on a little piece of paper that your opponent can't see, and then you like this piece of terrain. If they get within an inch of it, it will blow up and do potential damage to them if you roll a die, and maybe it'll do damage. Or it allows you to move like somebody ahead just before the game starts, or there's little things here and there, and there's also ways to go against it. So like I can be like, cool, I'm going to bomb this piece of terrain. Well, my opponent doesn't know I'm going to do that, but is guessing I'm going to do that. So they can say, I'm going to defuse that piece of terrain. And if it turns out they defuse a piece of terrain and I did a different thing, then his guess was wasted and mine might have also been wasted. There's a bunch of them in there like, well, if your opponent does this thing, then it didn't do anything. Or if your opponent doesn't do this thing, then it didn't do anything. And it's a weird setting. And it's the idea to get like intel and figure things out and give you an extra bonus. But it's just an extra thing where everyone's just going, I guess I'm going to pick this one. I don't freaking care. And people just, for the most part, people skip it. And in tournaments, even GW now, in their official rules they've put out for the different conventions, are like, yeah, skip that phase. So it's just not very interesting. I mean, honestly, the first several times that I played the game, I skipped it out of literally just forgetting it was there. Like, we would get like halfway through the game, I'm like, oh, that's right, we were supposed to do the scout phase, and just, Let's see here. Sorry, but comfortable, practical footwear is important to me personally. I have to walk fairly long distances at times. No, that totally makes sense. Idiots and loud vehicles know no borders. Tons of them here in Canada, particularly cottage industry. Yeah, no, that's definitely. Comfortable footwear makes your feet weaker. Simple flat shoes makes your feet stronger. I mean, it sort of sounds right, but I don't know if it's actually right. Let's see here. What do they call it when the people with the untuned trucks do their thing? I'm sure there's a name for it. I don't even know what that means. I mean, untuned, like they don't have, like, well, just if they rumble a lot, sometimes I feel like they could use a tune-up. I've not played since Old World Fantasy and 4th edition 40k, and slowly getting back into it with this lockdown situation and little one's loose interest in the game if it takes too long. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan, and I'm not a little one, but I'm still a big fan of games not taking too long, so that's why I generally kind of are interested in skirmish games. The other reason that I'm interested in skirmish games is also because I can, and I've talked about this a bunch of times, it's a little bit more like a buffet, where I will be able to do a little bit of this warband, a little bit of that kill team, whatever. Like right now on Twitch, I'm painting Tyranids. I've never painted Tyranids before, and I also did not want to paint 200 of them for an army, or 150, or whatever. So I'm painting 7 for my Tyranid kill team. I've got 3 warriors and 4 gene stealers, and I can use a number of models to make 2 separate kill team lists. One that's, I think, 3 warriors with 2 gene stealers, and another one that's 2 warriors with 4 gene stealers. So, yeah, that's one of the benefits, is that I can then do that. I can also do a little bit of this. Like, they will be when the Tyranids are done, they'll be my 7th painted warband, kill team, for kill team. And then I've got plans to do also Adeptus Mechanicus. They're built, but their bases aren't textured yet, and they're not primed. And I've also got Tau, who are also built, but not textured or primed. And then after that, I want to do Orcs, and I want to do Grey Knights. So, yeah, that is the plan down the road. So I like being able to just kind of dip in a little bit. And then Warcry is the same thing. I can do, instead of doing an entire army of Gloomspite Gitz, I can do some, as opposed to, a ton. So that's kind of where that's what I like. But also the fact that you're right, that the game is also shorter, so you're not having, it takes up less space. I mean, Warcry is played in a 22 by 30 board. So is Kill Team. It's really a nice small size. But I still, even like 3 foot by 3 foot, I think, is still a great size too for a lot of different games. Too bad this is America. We have the freedom to drive whatever we want. P.S. I don't care for loud vehicles either. Yeah, well, I mean, if your car, like if you've got a muffler that's fallen off and your car is really, really loud, the cops can pull you over. I mean, it depends on the state, I suppose, but that can be the case. But if you've set your vehicle to do that on purpose and you jackass up and down the streets doing that, making lots of noise, that doesn't seem to be breaking any laws, which is weird, in my opinion. Thanks for the stream and chat. Sorry about the footwear thing. No problem. Let's see here. Tyranids look great. Thinking I might go with that route as well for another kill team. Well, thanks. Yeah, no, they've been a lot of fun. I don't have access to the stream from here, but if you're interested, you go to Twitch. My last several VODs, VODs, recordings, whatever, are me working on Tyranids. But I also, so you go to twitch.tv/tabletop minions, but I will be doing it live again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time, but I also do Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. And I primed them with a Krylon, desert kind of camo color. I think the actual color is called khaki. It's the darker of the two tans that comes in that line. And then I threw Skeleton Horde contrast paint onto all of the non-armored bits, like the arms and the whatever, and then let that soak in and dry. And then I went back and dry brushed all those parts with a olive flesh color from Proacryl from Monument Hobbies. And then I've been going through and just picking out some details and stuff. And I'm going to eventually do the armored big, carapace parts with Turbodork. I haven't completely decided exactly which color yet, but I'm going to be using a Turbodork color to get a very kind of interesting sort of metallic-y sheen. And so, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. But yeah, they're getting closer. I'm just about to the part where it's going to be time to start doing the Turbodork part, so there's that. Ranged Stormcast is my wife's favorite warband to play. It has great options with the range. Nice. What can you even include in the Tyranid kill team? Gene Stealers and Warriors. You can even take a Lictor, though he's expensive, but you can do that. If you get into Commanders, if you play kill team Commanders, you can even take a Broodlord if you want to. But literally, if you're playing Commanders, a Broodlord is Commanders. I think it's Commanders. It's been so long since I played a single. I've literally played maybe one game of Commanders, and I was like, meh. But the Commanders, I think, is 200 points. I think it's 200 points. And a Broodlord at level 4 is 196 points. So, you could literally take a 4th level Broodlord and, a Termagant, and that's your entire army for playing Commanders, whereas your opponent could be playing, let's say, I don't know, Guard, and the highest level 4 commander you can take in that army is only 65 points or something like that. So it's interesting. Hey Nick, how you doing? Just caught up real quick for the person asking. Super Tiny Skirmish. I knew it had the word tiny in it. Super Tiny Skirmish is a different game, but there's some fantasy players in the Planet 28 Facebook group. Oh, okay, well that's cool too. But yeah, there's also the Super Tiny Skirmish as well, which is fantasy from what I understand, right? Every time I hear the word khakis, I think of the State Farm commercial. Oh yeah. When your playing pieces are 28 millimeters tall, they are called miniature figures. When they are 60 millimeters tall, they are called toy soldiers. Oh, interesting. I had no idea. Are you going to release your schedule for December and the holidays? Schedule. What's schedule for what? For Twitch or for something else? What do you mean? The only thing I can think of is probably I won't do... I mean, it's hard to say. I probably won't do a Twitch stream on Christmas Day, which would be a Friday. But it's not like I'm going anywhere, so I guess I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's otherwise I would probably stick to the schedule pretty much. I'm generally sticking to schedule unless I'm traveling, and Lord knows I'm not traveling, so. Are these to be made kill teams competitive or just for fun? Oh, I never play competitively. I'm not into any kind of tournament scene or anything like that, so I generally just put together what I think is going to be cool. Anyone have a recommended substitute for AK Interactive Streaking Grime? Ammo by MIG makes us an ammo wash streaking grime as well. So look up ammo by MIG. MIG is spelled M-I-G. And ammo is spelled like ammo. M-A-M-M-O. But yeah, definitely. I'm going to have to play Commanders and Kill Team if I want any variety in my Harlequin Kill Team. That's true. Yeah, because the Harlequins have just pretty much got the one guy. I've been watching some of your videos about more minor skirmish games, and I've decided to make the rules for my own game. Yeah, I mean, a lot of... if you've been playing long enough, the longer and longer you play, the more and more likely you're going to be like, I'm going to make my own game. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think that, honestly, right now in this day and age, it's a great time to do it because you have so many options on how to produce it. Like, you can sit down and write your own game just for yourself to have fun with just you and your friends. Nothing wrong with that. But maybe after you've done that and you and your friends have been playing it and tweaking it and playtesting it and all that kind of stuff, you could figure out a way to sit down and produce it. Because it used to be you could only produce a game if you could get it printed and sent into distribution or get people to find out about it and order it via mail. And there's all kinds of... Nowadays, you could make a game, produce it as a PDF, which costs you nearly nothing other than time, and then get people to buy it through Drive-Thru RPG or, well, Wargame downloads, whatever the heck. It's Wargame Vault is what they call it. But there's all kinds of different options online. The hardest part then is to actually get people to notice. You know what I mean? Like, the production and all that stuff has become very, very easy over time. It's just now difficult to get people to notice because there's so much more going on in general. Please do a 2020 review. 2020. Oh, you mean? Oh. Well, yeah. I'm gonna do probably Christmas Day. I was actually just looking at the calendar yesterday, and I was looking at when I did my kind of 2020 like stuff. I forget what I even called it. It was the little gold seal 2019 thing. I'm going to do that again for 2020. I've already started thinking about some of the things that are going to be in it. But it probably will actually come up on Christmas Day because just it happens to be that the basically last Friday of the month is pretty much Christmas Day. So yeah, I'll still be doing that. Still be wearing the cool tuxedo as well. So I got that going for me. It's nice. I'd be here for a Christmas Day stream. We celebrate on the eve up here. Nice. Let's see here. I didn't realize they had a streak and grime. Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's nice. Kill Team Commander's idea, recreate the film Alien. Well, I've kicked around the idea of trying to figure out how to like I would love to build a Broodlord, paint it, and have basically that Broodlord and, like I said, maybe like one Termagant if I could fit that into the army versus another army that was like maybe Imperial Guard, because that would A, be a little bit like Aliens anyway, but B, also just to see, does Weight of Fire really completely invalidate having one super powerful model or not, you know? I played an Elites game against a friend of mine last year, and he was running Custodes, and I think he had 2 or 3 models. And I ran guard against him. And the only reason that I won was because I literally clogged the walkway with models. Like, it was that scenario where there was only one objective and it was in the middle, and I had like one dude on it, and he had deep stroked, whatever. Anyway, had come in and was like going to come in from my back area and attack, kill my leader and all that stuff, which he did. Like literally every turn he could kill a guy. There was no question. But I had them all stacked up in these hallways, and he couldn't get there fast enough before the end of the game. And at the end of the game, I was the one holding it. Like, next turn, everyone's dead. It was basically that. But it was literally just, I just kept putting bodies in there, and he could only kill one at a time every turn. And so I just basically choked the hallways with my dead. And that's the only way that I was able to win that one. And if I would have goofed up the spacing or something like that, I probably would have lost. Or if there would have been more ways to get through. But the way that it was kind of a choke point, and it worked out. So, all right. Well, It is 11 o'clock in my neck of the woods. It's also sometime in your neck of the woods, most likely. But I want to thank everyone for coming by. I still haven't completely 100% decided what I'm going to do, whether it's going to be Gitz or whether it's going to be Stormcast. Both of them will eventually get done. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing after this next project. So I'll think about it a little bit more. I've got some good feedback here in the chat, so I appreciate that. And I hope everyone's doing well, keeping safe, and you know, not going anywhere. So sit down and do some painting, do some building, and maybe watch some videos. And you know, but paint and build as well. It's not just watching videos, ladies and gentlemen. You got to do the work as well, which I appreciate. So I hope that folks are doing well, and we'll see you again. If you want to come check it out Twitch, you can totally do that. Monday nights, 7 p.m. Central. Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Central. And watch me sit and paint and talk to people and stuff like that. It's usually roughly the same amount of chatter, maybe, as here. Maybe not as much question answering, but still, it's pretty good. So I hope to see folks then, and if not, I hope to see you in the next video in another 2 weeks. And stay safe, and thanks for watching.